Hi everyone, Cynthia here with this month's Leader's Log. So it's March. March is a great time. If you're living north of the equator, it's the month where spring starts to come in. It's a time for vegetables and flowers, but it's also the last day of March is the end of first quarter, which is important for businesses, right? So today I want to talk to you about a book I read and see how you feel about whether or not this can apply to your situation as the leader of an organization. I read the book Grit. You may have read it. It's written by a social scientist named Angela Duckworth. It's not new. It was published in 2016, but I just got my hands on it, so to speak, when somebody suggested I read it. I read it cover to cover. I loved it. I work a lot with individuals and coaching around the area of goal setting and goal attainment. And of course, so much of that has to do with habits and perseverance, grit. So I started to read it and I thought, okay, I'm going to try using her approach with a coaching client that I had a couple weeks ago. And her approach basically says, perseverance or grit comes first of all from an interest in something. What is it that I'm interested in? The second step is, well, I'm interested in it. What will I do with it? What's the purpose of this interest? Is it for me? Is it for my family? Is it for the greater community at large? Is it for my team? What is that purpose? And if those two, your interest and your purpose, align, you should basically experience a passion around it. And it is the passion that drives the ability to stay focused on deliberately executing on that goal. So that's the discussion I had with the coaching client I had. And it was interesting in that he really discovered that he didn't ever really address the very first question, which is really, what are my interests? What things am I interested in? And how would I use them if I had everything I needed to implement? I was trying to help him get very clear on what his goal was. And it came to me that between working with him and reading the book and working with executive teams, it seems to me that that interest and that purpose, if they're not there, obviously the vision won't be driven. The vision won't go anywhere. And when individuals start to talk about the strategic plan failed, it's really not the strategic plan. It's not that the strategic plan isn't going anywhere. It's that we've lost interest, focus, vision, purpose. Something within there is not there. It's not at the root cause of why we're doing what we're doing. So I started to think about that when it came to how do senior managers work with managers, how do executive vice presidents work with managers, how does the C-suite work with everyone else, all the other senior leaders in the organization. And the thing that came to mind was I started to think about those individuals that drove businesses and where and how they were successful that were within my client base. And it came back to they had this clear vision, but there was interest and purpose driven from them around what we were doing and why we were doing it. And I would suspect that that's a large part of the companies that come in as companies that are best to work for, as voted by the employees. So as you're approaching the end of March, and of course you've been watching strategic activities, I guess I would just suggest that you go back and see and learn where you're succeeding. Was the significance of the interest and the purpose, was it relayed to the employees? Was there a way we discovered in which the employees could feel a part of that, could feel an ownership around executing on the purpose? And see how that aligns with how successful your strategic planning has been, because it is always about communication, right? It's how we communicate what we want. And then the second part is identifying how that's going to work. And the third part is getting it to work through deliberate and consistent actions. Maybe not the most fun part, but it's certainly the end game would be fun. All right, just some things to think about. Let me know how you think about grit and perseverance as it comes to driving your organization. Thanks for listening.